What's up, everybody? This is episode 11 of Mind Over Metal podcast right here. mindovermetalpodcast.com, iTunes, Spreaker, and YouTube also. But we haven't done an episode for 2 weeks. Just been so fucking busy, Mike and myself, and we didn't get one done last week. But it's good to be back. Mike should be with us at any time, but he's having some power difficulties. But as soon as he's available, he's going to call in. But this week we have this is actually the first of our celebrity guests that we were hoping to get on. But we have Dr Fukk, aka Ralph Viera, has joined us this week, and we're going to talk about his the early 80's metal scene in Miami, what it was like. Ralph grew up in the thick of it, got to see a lot of killer shows. Metal's been in his blood as a kid, and he never fucking changed, never waned. The guy fronts a million bands. He's a radio show host. He's got multiple podcasts, hundreds of thousands of followers, and he's here on Mind Over Metal this week. So, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Ralph Viera. What's up, Ralph?
Hello, kiddies. It's me, Dr. Fukk, Ralph Viera, here on the Mind Over Metal podcast. Glad to be here, buddy.
Awesome. Come here. Look, as I said, delighted to have you. So happy you came on. This, we were talking off air, and I said that this was something that Mike and myself were trying to get going, this last couple of months. And look, it's great that you've taken the time out of your very, very busy schedule and joined us. So how you been?
I'm doing great, dude. I'm here chilling at home for a little bit, a rare occasion when I'm home. Usually I'm only home to sleep, but no band practice, no nothing. I do work tonight, but that's in 5 hours, so I got time to burn a little bit, and then I got to pack because I'm going to Melbourne tomorrow, and I'm going to go see Ace and Rat, and I'm going to meet Ace on Friday, and I'm a very excited guy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be fucking killer. Now, I know you're probably not the biggest Rat fan in the world, but they've bbeen putting on a good show.
Well, let me explain my opinion on Rat. I do like Rat. You want to talk about old school shows. I mean, I saw them open for Billy Squier under the Cellar tour, and they completely destroyed Billy Squier. And every time I seen them after that, and I do like some of Invasion, but I'm a big fan of the EP, and I'm a big fan of Out of the Cellar. Now, when it comes to Invasion and Dancing Undercover, you take the best songs out of that, and that would make one strong album for me.
Yeah.
So I kind of do on the Rock and Metal Combat Podcast Facebook page, I kind of goof on Rat a lot because everybody says, "Oh, Rat," especially because of Ian. Ian's like, "Oh, they're better than Motley Crue," and that's fine. My opinion is, dude, I don't hate fans. If I hate bands, I don't hate their fans, and I don't hate Rat. I really don't at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually going to sit there and watch them, and I did see Rat every single tour except for Detonator, and I saw the reunion with Stephen Pearcy. I seen him with Jizzy Pearl, which was phenomenal actually. And then I saw him open for the Scorpions, and this will be, I don't know, my 10th time. Let me do the math now. It's Rat on the Cellar, Invasion, Dancing I saw twice. I saw that tour twice because it came down here twice. Reach for the Sky, then the first reunion in 97, then with Jizzy Pearl, then with Scorpions. So I've seen them a total of 8 times.
Nice.
So this will be my 9th and 10th time. So after Saturday, it'll be 10 times seeing Rat. So that should say, I do like them. I'm a big fan of Warren DeMartini. I think he's phenomenal, and I don't hate Rat at all. It's pretty much an act,
Okay.
I feel like, they are, people take it the wrong way, but I feel like Rat is the most overrated band on this page. It doesn't necessarily say that they're bad, because one guy tried to get me and say, yeah, well, Cheap Trick is overrated here too. And you all know how I feel about Cheap Trick. And I was like, yeah, they are actually. And I love Cheap Trick. But yeah, they are very overrated on this page, because my whole point is there's certain bands on the podcast page that are nobody hates.
Yeah.
So therefore I call it overrated, including my one of my top 5 bands I feel is overrated on the page. So it's not that I hate Rat at all. It's like I just feel like they're overrated, like one of my favorite bands, Cheap Trick, on the Podcast page. So that's pretty much my thing, you know.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a fair point.
And I also do it a goof on Ian. There's this big friction that me and Ian have. He's my co-host on the Rock and Metal Combat Podcast, where he just says certain things that I know he's doing it to fuck with me. So therefore, I fire back, but he knows what I'm doing. We both know. I mean, I've told him in private how I do this shit to fuck with him, and he does, the same thing. He says ridiculous things like, "Oh, Tommy Lee's overrated. He's a shitty drummer. It's just show." And I'm like, "Yeah, right. You don't even think that, dude."
Yeah, he calls Motley Crue a poor man's Rat.
Yeah, there you go. And if you know your history, Motley Crue was like way more popular than Rat back in the day. I mean, but what a lot of historians don't seem to remember is that Rat was huge in the 80s. They were an arena act, and I've seen them headline many arena shows. So they weren't, Motley Crue was more popular, but that doesn't take away that Rat was still a bona fide headline act in the 80s and all over MTV, and they were extremely popular in the 80s. Yep. It just waned out because they're not as cute as Motley Crue, because if you're gonna be a part of that, for lack of a better word, because I don't consider them hair metal. I don't even consider Motley Crue hair metal. I mean, I think they turned into a hair metal band. But before there was that term hair metal, because now since this show is about 80s, there was a time that Rat and Motley Crue were called heavy metal bands.
Just American heavy metal.
Yeah, they were American heavy metal bands, or the LA metal, what they would call them back in the day. It wasn't until Poison and Bon Jovi came along that, they got tagged into it, because Rat did wear the rock star hair metal clothes, and they had kind of like the image, but their music to me didn't sound like hair metal.
Yeah.
Motley Crue did later on. I think Feel Good and
Theater of Pain.
Girls. Yeah. And Theater of Pain too. Theater of Pain wasn't called hair metal yet, but that was definitely. I mean, look at that, and then look at Poison. There's not a big difference, But Motley Crue did it first, and they were called a heavy metal band. But Theater of Pain, Motley Crue was trying to get away from the heavy metal tag. That's why you heard Mick Mars all of a sudden become a slide guitar player. Yeah. Where you listen to Shout at the Devil, it was all metal, Yeah. And that to me, I'm like, dude, I like heavy metal Motley Crue. I'm not a huge fan of Theater of Pain, but I have warmed up to like 3 or 4 songs off it that I think are really good. Yeah. Where that don't feature slide guitars, where it was in the vein of Shout at the Devil. And Motley Crue, man, they may have their lack of musicianship, but man, in the 80s, they were a phenomenal live band. They put on a goddamn show. Even, I gotta say, man, the best time I saw them was Shout at the Devil. The second best time I saw them was Theater of Pain. And I went to that show like, I don't really like the sound, but I walked out going, dude, that was a fucking great show, man. Yeah. And it was. They were a great, great live band back in the day, even though they didn't have the chops that, your dream theaters have. It didn't matter, Yeah. 3 chords, rock and roll,
Yeah, the attitude was there as well. No, I'm not the biggest Motley Crue fan. I love Shout at the Devil. And I like roughly half of Too Fast for Love and Fuck Everything Else for me. I really like the 94 album with John Corabi.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah, I love that album.
My favorite one's Corabi and Shout at the Devil. And yeah, I'd even go less than half of Too Fast for Love. Yeah. I only like about 3-4 songs off that one. Yeah. But those 2 albums right there, fuck it, I'm a fan. All the other shit they released, whatever. But those 2 albums is like, fuck it, I love Motley Crue because of those 2 albums.
Yeah. I mean, Shout at the Devil is fucking perfect. In my opinion, there's not a bad track.
No, it's a perfect heavy metal album. It was perfect for the time. Did you see that picture of me in 1983? There's a picture, and this is a funny story. My friend David Scott, who lives here in South Florida, about 2 years ago, he put up on my Facebook page a picture. It's a whole group of people.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a whole group of people, and you see me, 17-year-old kid holding up my Shout at the Devil, and he's like, "Dude, is that you?" And I was like, "Oh my God, where the fuck did you get this?"
Yeah, the chances of that.
And he ended up getting that picture on a Facebook page from California, and it was a picture from Motley Crue signing in 1984. It was early '84 or late '83. Here in Fort Lauderdale Peaches, I went and I had my. Here's the funny story too. I went with my Shout at the Devil album, and Mick Mars is the first guy on the table. So I give my album to him, and when he signs it, the lunkhead there is like, only one autograph for one member for a person. I was like, oh, fuck, man. But I slid it to Nikki Sixx right when he said that. Nikki Sixx signed it, and then it just threw me out. So I never got Vince Neil and Tommy Lee to sign it. So it was 1997. Vince Neil was at an opening of a strip club. And as much as a slut I am, I do not believe in strip clubs.
Yeah.
I'm just against it. I don't pay to see a chick getting naked in front of me and then not have sex, you know? Well, I don't pay for sex either. That didn't come out right.
Yeah.
But I went to it and I got Vince to sign it. So then Tommy Lee played a solo show here on South Beach. That terrible. It wasn't Method of Mayhem. It was the Tommy Lee solo thing. Never a dull moment, I think it was called. But I went, and my main objective to go was to meet Tommy Lee, to have him sign the last person to sign my Shout at the Devil. And when I got there, they had a thing there on the t-shirt saying, buy the new Tommy Lee CD and meet him. And I was like, there you go. So I bought the crappy album, and I met him. And when I met him, I said, dude, I've had this album since 1983. And back then, I had two of them sign it. Vince signed it like a couple years ago, and now you're the last person he signed. He goes, you aced it, dude. And let me tell you something. Tommy Lee was the nicest guy. I took a picture with him, but now Tommy Lee refuses to take pictures with fans, and he's a total dick.
Yeah,
so I caught him right at the end, right when he stopped taking pictures with people. So I got a picture with Tommy Lee. Yeah. So there you go. So yeah, it took me 30 years to get everybody to sign that album.
Because how fucking horrible would that be if he was the only signature, because of his track record now and not signing anything, that you could never get, and it was just always going to be incomplete. So fuck that.
So yeah, I got it completely signed. So Motley Crue is a very special band too to me, like in my development of the metalhead, because a lot of people now discredit Motley Crue, and I deal with a lot of people. A lot of my friends are much younger, or a lot of them are like only 10 years younger, so they don't really know the impact. Yeah. And there's a band, and I can't remember the name of the band. I believe Gene Hoglan's in it. And the name of the song, they have a song called While You Were Shouting at the Devil, I Was in League with Satan. And I'm like, asshole, I bought fucking black metal and Welcome to Hell. And then I bought Shout at the Devil like a year later. And I was shouting at the devil while being in league with Satan. So fuck your stupid shit. You have to like Venom and not like Motley Crue to be metal. No, fuck you. You can like both. And that's my whole point. And that's how it was in the early 80s. There wasn't this elitist attitude where you have to like one thing and not the other. Yes, there was a time in the mid 80s when thrash was exploding where it was either you like thrash or you like glam. You can't like both. And now I wasn't really a glam fan, but I loved Shout at the Devil, and I didn't give a fuck. I went to fucking thrash shows with my Motley Crue shirt, and I did it on purpose. Yeah. Because back then I was a scrappy, pissed off, crazy metalhead that was ready to fucking throw down with anybody. I've mellowed through the years. I don't like fighting anymore. But back then I'd show up at shows with a Motley Crue shirt, and not one motherfucker would say anything to me because I'd be in that pit. And I'd be thrashing around with all these crazy motherfuckers stage diving with a Motley Crue shirt, and I can tell you exactly what show. And tell me, I have balls to wear a Motley Crue shirt to a show that was, look at this lineup, Slayer, Motorhead, and Overkill.
Oh, man.
And I went on purpose. With my Shout at the Devil shirt, seeing who's going to fuck with me tonight. Yeah. I was ready to fight, because I was like tired. I was just so tired. Yes, I didn't like Poison. I didn't like Bon Jovi. I didn't like none of that shit. But at the same time, I never, ever, ever believed in bashing anybody that did like those bands, you know? Mm-hmm. I actually looked up to people that, especially guys, girls don't really count, but guys that would admit to like Bon Jovi and Poison. I'm like, those are the most furthest from posers guys you can meet. Because if you're going to admit liking that shit, you're fucking metal as fuck in my eyes. I don't give a fuck. Yeah. You know, it's just the bands would piss me off, not the fans. But a lot of people seem to like, oh, you don't like this band, then you don't like me. It's like, no, you're an idiot. I don't think that way. And like, if anybody says, you know, oh, Motley Crue sucks, and they don't care what if I like them or not, then they're all right with me.
Awesome. Come here, right, Ralph. You are in. You're in Thrash Or Die. Combat is on a hiatus. Is it fair to say that?
Yes. We are gonna eventually. Me and the drummer want to keep it going, and the bass player. But the bass player is quiet. He doesn't talk much. But
right.
We need guitar players, but you know. He's busy in a band called Hell Witch that's phenomenal. Yeah. And
I've heard you play them on your show.
Yeah, Hell Witch rules. I mean, Hell Witch I saw back in 1985. This guy was like minus 20 at the time. Or no, well, minus like 15. Because he's like 20 years old now. But I saw Hell Witch open for Anthrax in 1985. So they're veterans. They've been around for forever. And I'm good friends with Pat Renier, the leader of Hell Witch, and now he's in Hell Witch, and but you know his love is for his true love is traditional heavy metal like me, and I hang out with that guy at every damn show I go to. Brian Wilson's there, and we always do. We got to get Combat back together, but he's busy doing his thing. I'm busy doing my thing, but we're eventually going to get back to doing Combat. But shit, man. Awesome. I mean, I also have Ripjaw. I have Old Leather, which will be out very soon. Yeah. And Psycho Wrath. Man. So I'm in 5 bands at the moment.
Yeah, you're a busy man. So I mean, heavy metal is in your DNA. So yes. Can you go back to the start? What was your gateway? What was your, you know, when was the moment that the penny dropped for you that, you know, oh man, this is the music, this is the way of life for me?
Well, I gotta say, my first experience with heavy metal, and it didn't really make me a metalhead, but oddly enough, they're my all-time favorite band, was my big brother owned Paranoid from Black Sabbath. And when I was a little kid, we used to share a bedroom together, and every time we would play side 2, Electric Funeral, I would leave the room because I was scared that if I listen to this music, I'm going to go to hell. Yeah. There was just something, it was such an innocent, weird time. I'm talking 70s. You know, I'm 52 years old. I'm an old fuck. But in the 70s, I was a little kid. My brother owned the album. And let me tell you how innocent it was. If you open the Black Sabbath Paranoid album cover, there's a picture of Ozzy alone on one side and the 3 band members on the other side, and they're all wearing big crosses. And just the vision of that, looking at that and hearing Electric Funeral, I thought these guys are satanic, and whoever listens to them are going to hell. So they scared me. But my brother then went to the army, and I would listen then I was like, ooh, you know, this is forbidden. So I would like put on Electric Funeral, and I would dig it, but I didn't really become a full-fledged metalhead or music fan. I was more into movies. I loved Rocky and Slapshot and stuff like that, and I would always go to the movies and Jaws. But it wasn't until I went to go see a movie called Heroes with Henry Winkler that the movie ended with Carry On My Wayward Son, that Kansas song. Oh, yeah. So that was my very first rock album. I bought a bunch of 45s back in the day, Little Willie from the Sweet, Elton John. And then when I bought that album, now it's not a metal album, but that album is very hard rock. If you listen to the songs like What's on Your Mind and stuff on there, and even Carry On is like a hard rock song with a killer riff. It got me intrigued with, oh, this is really good. And then I bought ELO, which is not another non-metal band, but I really was into ELO at one point, New World Record, Out of the Blue. And it wasn't until I went to, this is what made me a metal fan, was when I went to my buddy's house and he played me I Want You by Kiss. And I was
Really?
like, ooh. Yeah, it was I Want You by Kiss that got me into music. Not necessarily metal, but music. So I went out and bought Double Platinum, which had I Want You on it. I didn't know I Want You was on Rock and Roll Over. I thought it was on Double Platinum. And I loved that album so much, and that's what got me into the harder rock. So then I went and bought We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll, Black Sabbath. And soon after, I went to Germany to see my brother who was stationed in the army, and he had a copy of Love Drive and Unleashed in the East, Judas Priest. And from there, that's what made me a fucking full-blown metalhead. And right after that, the new wave of British heavy metal came in. And forget it. From 1979 to present day, I have been a stone-cold metal fan. And it was so special back then because the goal was to find stuff your friends didn't have. So you could turn your friends onto it. So this is before the internet. It was so much. It was so special to walk into. There used to be a store called Open Books, and they specialized in imports. So I'd walk in there, and whatever looked metal, I would buy. Like I remember that's where I found Merciful Fate and Venom and Raven.
So this kind of goes back to the whole argument where people would say, if the cover was cool as fuck, they bought it without knowing.
Yes.
Yeah, going back, I hear a lot of people say that. You know, oh, I bought it because the cover was cool, and then I put it on, and I was like, holy fuck, this is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, then there were 2 occasions where I put it on. I'm like, this sucks. Grateful Dead. I don't know the name of the album, but the Grateful Dead had an album cover with a skeleton playing a violin. I was like,
I know it.
Grateful Dead, and look at the shit. And then Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell, which I kind of like that album now. I don't love it, but I remember buying it as a kid, going, oh man, because what I would do back then, I would cut lawns. And all the money for my lawn, prior, I was cutting lawns as a little kid, so I would waste that money on movies. But then I moved on to records, and I'd always cut a few lawns, and I could only afford 1 record a week, and it was a bummer when I bought that. But boy, I scored 100 when I walked into Specs Records at Westland Mall and saw the first Iron Maiden album cover. And I was like, what the hell is this? And I turned it over, and they looked like Judas Priest. I mean, exactly like Judas Priest. Like Dennis Stratton's wearing red leather pants. Dave Murray has the black vest, and Deano looked like Rob Halford, and Steve Harris looked like Pete Way from UFO. But either way, I was like, oh, this has gotta be good. And I'll never forget riding home on my bike with this album. And Westland Mall wasn't close to my house, and I remember pulling over my bike at the river and then sitting back and looking, just staring at this album cover. I can't wait to get home. I had another 30 minutes to go. Put it under my arm, ran home, put it on the turntable. When Prowler came on, that was a real life changer. That's what really turned me on to wanting to discover more, because I would call my friends, you gotta come over, I found this band called Iron Maiden, they're gods, you know. So and then after that I discovered Open Book Records with the imports, and Kerrang! Magazine back then was awesome. It sucks now, but back then I would look at it. I remember seeing a picture of Metallica with Dave Mustaine. This would be pre-Kill 'Em All in Kerrang! Magazine.
Oh, nice.
And going, oh man, yeah. And my buddy got Metal Massacre. He turned me on to Metallica. This is before Kill 'Em All. It was just a special time to, you know. It was just, I don't know. I feel today kids don't know how special it was back then, because now you can just go on YouTube. You hear your buddy, this band, you've ever heard this band? Oh, let me go on YouTube and check it out. Where back then you had to hunt for it. And that was fun. It was a lot of fun, like hunting for stuff and finding stuff at record stores, discovering stuff on your own, where now it's just, I'm not complaining. Now it's so easy for me, but so easy for everybody. But there was just something fun about the hunt.
There was also back then, also as well, there was the whole tape trading thing. You know, we done the same thing here, also. But I mean, that's how Metallica blew up, was trading the fucking tapes. You know, that's another thing that's dead, that's gone. You know, it's not coming back, and it's special to that moment in time. But I'm sure you've done a lot of that as well.
Yeah, and I had No Light to Leather. See, my story with Metallica was my buddy had got Metal Massacre. Actually, I did get the timelines wrong. I did see that picture of Metallica and Kerrang after I heard Hit the Lights on Metal Massacre. Because my buddy called me up and said, dude, you got to hear this band called Metallica. The song, the way he described it, he goes, this song starts like a song ends. And I was like, oh, really? Wow. So I rode my bike over there. He lived about 20 minutes away. And it's special. I go in his room. I'm like, I want to hear this band called Metallica because, number one, it says metal in the name of the band. And even hearing rock in a song back then was special. And so I'm like, Metallica, this has got to be good. So he put it on, and oh my, that was like the first thrash song, I think. I a lot of people argue, no, it's Fast as a Shark, no, it's Exciter. No, I think Metallica was the one that discovered. So then after that, yes, I was into tape trading, and I got a real bad version of No Light to Leather. And this is pre-Kill 'Em All. This is when Dave Mustaine was still in the band. And I got a generational copy where I was like, oh, Hit the Lights is different on this one.
Yeah.
And it had Motor Breath, it had Whiplash, I think it had Seek and Destroy, Mechanics, which was later Four Horsemen. And I went to a beach party. They would have, all my buddies would, get their monies together, and I was broke, I couldn't chip in, but they would get a hotel. We'd get over there and get fucked up, drunk, smoke weed, and I was hanging out at the party, and this guy at the party goes, hey, you ever heard of Metallica? And I was like, of course, man. And he's like, wow, you know Metallica? I go, yeah, I know Metallica. Hit the Lights. He's like, oh, shit, yeah, man, you got Kill 'Em All. I was like, what's that? I didn't know what he was doing. What's Kill 'Em All? And he goes, it's their album. I was like, they got an album? He goes, yeah, I got it in my car. He had the cassette, so we went downstairs in his car, and he played me it, and I was like, holy fuck, I didn't even know that these guys, had an album out. Because to me, Metallica, back then, I thought they were never going to make it. I thought it was one of those bands that was going to be just, in my tape trader and never be heard of again. So now, in retrospect, they're the biggest fucking band in the world, Yep.
And all that excitement, as you just said there, when your buddy told you that, oh, I've got the new Metallica album, and you were like, oh, fuck, man, I want to hear it. All that excitement is gone out of music today too. I mean, nobody really gets fucking excited for any band, or it just it's too...
and it's also, you got to remember, this is like the dawn of thrash and the dawn of metal. Really, I mean, yeah, you can classify metal in the 70s, but it's a total different beast. I mean, when I was a little kid, Van Halen, AC/DC was heavy metal.
Yeah.
I mean, I have magazines to prove it. I have, metal, and they have lists of metal bands. They even put Boston in there, and Kansas,
Kiss,
and Stick, and Kiss, and Nazareth. I mean, all stuff that we consider classic rock. When I was a little kid, it was called heavy metal, And even before I was into metal, I mean, before I even knew all this shit, I mean, that shit was called acid rock. I found that out from my older buddies, but it morphed into heavy metal. But yeah, it was a very, very special time, dude. Extremely special time. And I'll never forget, like, going to concerts. I mean, walking into a fucking concert for the very first time, even though it wasn't a metal show, it was a religious experience. Walking through that door, having that guy tear my ticket in half, because back then they would just tear the ticket in half. Now they like tear it on the corner so you get to see the whole ticket. But back then they just tear it in half. But just walking into it was like fucking walking into heaven.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my God, I'm in a concert. And, that was my first show with Cheap Trick. My second one was Black Sabbath.
Nice.
With Ronnie James Dio. The Heaven and Hell tour. Yeah. My parents, I missed Black Sabbath with Van Halen, with Ozzy, because my parents said I was too young to go. And I missed Kiss Love Gun. I missed so many great shows when I was really young, because my parents wouldn't let me go. Now, the Black Sabbath Heaven and Hell tour was at the Miami Highlight, which was about, I'd say, roughly 5 miles from where I lived. And they said, you can't go. And I said, fuck that, man. This is Black Sabbath. So what I did was I snuck out of the house. I got on a bus. I went to Black Sabbath. I saw the show. I got home. My dad was waiting for me with a belt. He lashed me, and that's another thing, kids, that, you know, back then it's like, oh, that's child abuse. No, it's not. Believe me, I deserved it. And he beat the fuck out of me with a belt for doing that, for defying him. And I learned a lot from my dad. You know, I mean, come on, man. I mean, I've lived a really good life because of my father, the discipline he gave me. But I gotta also say, every fucking hit on the belt that I got from him that night, I fucking would take it again 20 times over, because it was worth it. It was worth getting my ass kicked over, because I got to see Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Ronnie James Dio, and Vinny Appice. You know, Bill Ward was no longer in the band by the time that tour rolled around here, even though he's on the album. But yeah, that was my first metal show, and the loudest show I ever saw, other than, you know, all the other Black Sabbath and Motorhead. Those are the two loudest bands ever, you know, I've ever seen live.
Yeah, awesome. And just when you mentioned Motorhead there, excuse me, I mean, you've mentioned it on many occasions, on, you know, on your own podcasts and your videos. You know, Motorhead's one of your favorite bands. You know, Lemmy is, you know, somebody that meant so much to you. I've heard the story before of, you know, when you first heard Motorhead, how you discovered them. But a lot of the listeners, I think, is, you know, pretty interesting story. Do you want to get into that?
Yeah, it's an amazing story, actually. It was Miami Baseball Stadium had a show. It was Heart Blue as Their Cult, I think Firefall, an air band, and I'll explain what an air band is, and then Motorhead. So they used to play the commercial for the new Motorhead album, Ace of Spades, on the radio, and I heard about a 10-second, 15-second clip of Ace of Spades. And I told all my buddies, oh my God, we got to get there early. This sounds really heavy, you know, pre Metallica, you know, when I heard Hit the Lights. This was like 1980, 81. So we got there early. Dude, this is a baseball stadium, I mean, full of people. Motorhead comes out, and I'll never forget this vision. They're up there playing, and everybody is sitting down during it, like confused, except for two dudes. I'll never forget these two older guys without shirts going apeshit during the Motorhead, and it turned out they were British. And I got to see the very first Motorhead show in America. And oddly enough, I saw the very last Motorhead show in America, Pompano Beach Amphitheater. They did play a bunch of shows afterwards, because they were down here for the Motor Cruise, Motorhead boat. So they played that show, then they went on the cruise, and they did a European tour, but the very last show in America was Pompano Beach. So I saw the very first and the very last Motorhead show in America, and I saw them like 4 or 5 times in between. And yes, Motorhead was extremely important to me back then, because they were, till the end, they were always my band. Like Metallica, they became everybody's band. You know, like, you know, there's a lot of, like Iron Maiden, Def Leppard. I was into the first 2 albums before they broke. I mean, I can name a bunch of bands, Scorpions, that I was into that nobody knew about. But Motorhead, they remained, I mean, even though they got more popular in the later years, because believe me, for like 20, 30 years, Motorhead was still an opening act. I mean, even through the 90s, and it wasn't until like right before Lemmy's death, about a good 5 years, people started to notice how great this guy was and how legitimate Motorhead was. But through all those years, man, if you liked Motorhead, you were to me, that you were hardcore metal. And because I know this, because here's another thing I have to bring up, that, and I love the guy dearly, and I'm still good friends with him, but that guy that turned me on to Metallica, you know, me and him discovered Manowar, Raven, UFO, AC/DC, all this stuff. We discovered it together. Me and him were Siamese twins. But what happened was he turned to the dark side, because it was around 85 he started getting into Bon Jovi and stuff like that. And I went to his house one day, and he had on, you know, he recorded a Bon Jovi interview on this show called Radio 1990. I had a cute blonde, and he loved Bon Jovi, and I was like, I don't really get this one, but you know, whatever, you know. And we were watching the video in his house, and he goes, man, Bon Jovi looks better than that girl. And I was like, damn, man, I got to get going, bro. and ever since then, I went to his house with Melissa from Merciful Fate. He didn't get it. Yeah. I played him Celtic Frost. I got heavier, he got lighter. And it sucked because our friendship kind of like fractured at that time, though we're back to being good friends. And we go see Judas Priest and stuff together that we used to like. But he never really got into, he doesn't like Thrash or Die.
Yeah.
He's never seen a Thrash or Die show. But this is some guy I grew up with. Me and him saw Kiss Meets the Phantom together. This is how far we go back. And that's a funny story, too. I got to tell this. I know I'm babbling a lot, but...
No, that's why we have you here, to tell your stories, so...
me and him love Kiss so much. And Kiss is I touched upon Kiss, but we loved Kiss so much that his whole room, my whole room was covered with Kiss posters. Well, anyway, Kiss Meets the Phantom was going to air. And I went to his house. We were so excited for this. And he had 2 TVs, one in his bedroom, one in his living room. In his bedroom, he got a little fucking tape recorder. It was a little Bobo tape recorder. He put it against his TV. We went to the living room to watch it. And then after the thing, he dubbed it for me. And we lived with that audio of Kiss Meets the Phantom forever. And we used to actually go to movies and record Cheech and Chong movies, Exorcist, and stuff like that. I mean, me and him were inseparable. But, there came a time where we fractured. And at that time, I moved to Miami Beach. Hialeah is where I was raised, which is about a 20-minute drive. But when I moved to Miami Beach, I found like-minded metalheads.
Yeah.
So then, I became more friendly with them, where he got more into the lighter stuff. So he never really got into the heavier stuff. And now he's married, he's bald, but he doesn't really look into new bands. He's kind of stuck back then. If a classic band that me and him used to love back in the day was to play, then we hang out. But if like Motorhead or whoever, Raven or stuff like that would come to town, he wouldn't be there. So, and not to brag or anything, but the truth is, man, I mean, I am a diehard. I am going to die metal. I was born metal. I'm going to die metal. And I do have that philosophy. And a lot of people get mad at me for saying this, but it is the truth. If you're not metal now, then you never were. Because that shit is like, I put up, there's a video I put up where it's about Zebra Boy from Heavy Metal Parking Lot, which I might meet at the Rock and Pod Expo.
Yeah.
That guy's a poser. I mean, in the whole video, he's like, heavy metal rules. All that punk Madonna shit belongs on Mars. Well, they tracked that guy down now. He's like, I don't listen to metal no more. I listen to country. and plus, the way he dressed back then with the zebra, the spandex. Let me tell you something. The way I dressed in the 80s is the way I dress now. Jeans and t-shirt, man. I never wore spandex. I never wore a bandana around my head or around my side. I was a scumbag, Lemmy-looking Motorhead, fucking metalhead looking dude, and there was tons of us back then, and I'm still dressing the same, man. I have so many concert shirts that I have a box full of them that I don't wear anymore. I don't want to wear anymore because they're going to go bad on me. So believe me, and I own every tour book that I've been to. I have tour books from the early 80s, and I collect stuff. My whole house is a metal shrine. You walk into my house, everybody's house, you walk into their house, regular house. You walk into my house, it's wall-to-wall posters and frames, and I got over like 1,400 vinyl, over 4,000 CDs, more DVDs that you can shake at a poser. And and it's in my blood, and all I do is collect metal, go to metal shows, hard rock shows, and I'm a big fan of classic rock, because it's where I came from, Yep.
Yeah, you just live, breathe, and eat it. It's your life. And it's cool as fuck, man. You mentioned that friend of yours or that guy from Heavy Metal Parking Lot, and there is a lot of people like that might have been diehard when they were a teenager, early 20s, but then they tailor off and they just
and a lot of people attacked me because I made a video about them, and they said, "Oh, well, people grow up." It's like, fuck growing up, man. Why don't you just be real? To me, that's like the divorce rate. You fall in love with somebody, then all of a sudden you get divorced. Well, fucking, I've been married to metal for over 3 decades, going on 4. You know, it's like, well, really, technically about 4. Yeah, in like 2-3 years, it's going to be 4 decades I've been married to heavy metal, and I'm faithful to metal. I've never turned my back on metal, and this is the most important part of being a metalhead. To me, this is going to sound crazy, but to me, the most special time to be a metalhead was the 90s, because I went to go see Ronnie James Dio, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, all in clubs.
Yeah.
And when I walked into that club, these are bands that I saw play to 15, 20, 30,000 people in arenas. I go to that club, there's like 200 people in there, but those 200 people that were in there were like me. Mm-hmm. And we were sharing the moment. It was us against them. We never turned our back on Ronnie James Dio. Mm-hmm. We never turned our back on Priest or Fight or, Rob Halford. Mm-hmm. Any band that we loved and we were there in the arenas, we were still there for them during the real hard, dark years. And a lot of people were like, oh, that was the worst time. No, it was the best of times, because we were there. We were, and then when it made a comeback, and then I started to see some people that left, came back. Oh, don't think they didn't hear from me.
Yeah,
I told them all, where the fuck were you during the 90s? Oh, and don't get me wrong, I liked a lot of grunge stuff. I went and saw Alice in Chains and Soundgarden, even Nirvana, but I liked it, but I didn't love it. It was all like, I have a saying, and this is my saying. I love a lot of different types of music, but all that type of music takes a backseat to metal. Metal is the greatest form, the most liberating. It has kept me out of trouble. It's kept me from killing people. Mm-hmm. It's kept me I have been so level-headed. Metal has done me so much good in my life. It's given me the power to succeed in life. When I was 17, I left my mom and dad's house. I succeeded on my own. I had a couple scrapes. We all fucking fail at times. Mm-hmm. And I ended up back at mom's at 21, but I got out 6 months later as a busboy because of lyrics from bands like Triumph. Twisted Sister was very, very inspirational to me. I Am On Me is a song that really, really defy, no matter what, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna do something. Every time I put my mind to something, I fail, and failure is awesome because failure makes you stronger. Failure makes you learn. We all fucking fail. I always fail. I just put up the Viera vault. I don't know what's going to happen with it. It might fail, but I'm going to try. If you don't try, you're not going to succeed. So and metal is the thing that made me that. It made me this person that nothing will stop me. If I put my fucking energy toward it, my whole heart and soul toward it, I'm gonna get it. And if I don't, it wasn't meant to be, and there's something else on the horizon that I'm gonna get. Nothing's gonna keep me back, because metal, and a lot of people don't seem to understand this because you don't live the lifestyle. You don't know what it's like. I'm kind of like a lone wolf. I mean, I have relationships here and there, but there's a lot of people that can't stand being alone. I can't be alone. I have to, I have to be with somebody else. No, to me, man, as long as I have metal in my life, I'm fine, single or in a relationship.
Yeah.
That's my point.
That's all. That's some fucking awesome words there. Now, two things I wanted to bring up was, two tours that you saw. You saw Creatures of the Night, and you saw Blizzard of Oz. So, I mean, what was that like? Which was first? Blizzard of Oz was first. So, maybe start off with that one. What was that experience like?
Mind blowing. Now, at the time, I'm a big, my favorite band of all time is Sabbath. So of course, Ozzy's the shit. I owned Blizzard of Oz not that long. I think I had Blizzard of Oz maybe not even a month before I saw the show. But I was huge into Def Leppard at the time. They were opening. It was the High and Dry era.
Yeah.
So I was more excited to see Def Leppard, to be honest with you. But, I loved the Ozzy album. I was excited to see both bands. But I was like, oh, I can't wait to see Def Leppard. So back in those days, this is a really cool story. If you would get a ticket to a show and you were on 20th row, you'd get a whiteout, right? Mm-hmm. And you'd white out the 0, right? So it looks like you're in second row. But what you have But what you have to do is wait till the lights go out before the show starts. And when that happens, I run up to the guy in the aisle, and everybody's yelling, and a lot of people trying to get their seats. So he's a little distracted. I show him my ticket. I got the second row to see Def Leppard, and I was on Pete Willis' side, and I never left. The whole night. I stayed up there because the way Sunrise Musical Theater was, if you got the second row, you can jump over to first row, and in front of first row was a good 10 feet, and there was a lot of people, pressed against the stage. So I got up there, and I wasn't exactly pressed against the stage. I was about maybe 3 people behind the guy that was pressed against the stage. So basically, I was in front of front row.
Mm-hmm.
So Def Leppard came out. They were phenomenal. They were great. I got my fix. Then Ozzy comes out. I did not know the name of his guitar player at the time.
Yeah.
And I was on his side. Randy Rhoads played in front of me the whole night, and he was about, 7 feet away from me. And I was completely in awe. I mean, Ozzy too. I was like, oh my God, Ozzy. And I'm like, who the fuck is this little guy? He came out with this big cream-colored Les Paul. And one thing that burns in my mind when they open with I Don't Know, normally guitar players use the whammy bar to go, wow. Mm-hmm. Randy would bend the neck of his guitar and get that sound. And I was like, look at this little guy, and he just kept shredding in front of me. And I'm like, holy fuck, this guy's amazing. So I walked out and I was like, man, what's the name of that guitar player? He was great. And I went and bought the program, which I still own, the tour book. Randy Rhoads, and then I went home and I started to worship the Blizzard of Oz album, really paying attention to the guitar player. And I was like, oh my God. And I would tell all my friends that didn't go to the show, Ozzy's guitar player, Randy Rhoads, is fucking a god. You gotta see this guy. He's unfucking believable. So, and I wasn't the only one to think this, because everybody that says Randy Rhoads is overrated because he's dead is a jackass, and they weren't there. Because Randy Rhoads, before he died, was becoming huge in the metal circuit. Everybody was talking about Randy Rhoads this. They were already comparing him to Eddie Van Halen. There was already people back then saying he was better than Eddie Van Halen. So what happened was Diary of a Madman came out. And that album, Diary of a Madman, was the most heavy metal, brutal shit at the moment, because it may not sound it now, but back then everybody, even Dave Mustaine cited it, that was the heavy metal album. And it sounded better. Randy was on fire on that album. So they're coming back to Florida, and this time they're opening for Foreigner at the Orange Bowl, big fucking open air festival. And I'm telling all my buddies, wait till you see this guy, dude. Wait till you see this guy. 2 days before the show, the plane crash.
Oh, man.
I missed Randy Rhoads. Randy Rhoads' next show after his death was either the Miami show or Tangerine Bowl. I know they were playing 2 shows in the States. I don't know if they played the Tangerine Bowl, but I was about to see Randy Rhoads a day or 2 before he died. And I'll never forget that moment. I'm walking home from school, and my buddy's big brother goes, hey, did you hear? I go, what? He goes, Ozzy died in a plane crash. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. I didn't believe him. I was like, no, he didn't. Because at that time, Ozzy was, he bit the head off a bat. He bit the head off a pigeon. It was rumor after rumor after rumor with Ozzy. So I didn't believe it. So then I got home, and I saw, and I'll never forget the report. The old lady, I know she's dead now, news reporter called Ann Bishop on Channel 10 News said, Ozzy Osbourne, that's how she called him. Ozzy Osbourne was involved in a plane crash. And I was like, oh my God. It's true. And then, they went into commercial, and then they came back, and they said Ozzy Osbourne's tour bus was hit by a plane carrying his guitar player, Randy Rhoads. And dude, I cried. I actually cried. I really did cry. I got the shivers. I couldn't talk to anybody. I was in shock. It was, I was like, this can't be. It's got to be wrong. Randy Rhoads can't be dead. This is, it was just one of the most surreal moments in my life, because back then I didn't really experience death except for like Bon Scott and my grandma. So it was like, and Bon Scott was, another really big deal to me, but for some reason I never got to see Bon Scott live. So it didn't really have that impact on me.
Yeah.
And I never met my grandma either. So
Yeah.
So it was just fucking heartbreaking to me. But I ended up going to the show anyway. UFO, Pat Travers, I believe, replaced them. I saw the show. It was terrible. Not one mention on stage from any band about Randy.
Oh.
And the only good thing I can say about that show, and it ended at 6 p.m. too. How lame is that?
Yeah.
There was a guy outside selling T-shirts, and he had a Diary of a Madman jersey on, which had the picture of the inner sleeve with all 4 members sitting on the steps of Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, dude, I want to buy that shirt. He's like, no, man. I go, come on, dude. I'll give you $20. Now, $20 back then was like 50. That guy just took it off his back and gave it to me. It was a jersey. I wish I still had that shirt, but it was like, I got to have something of Randy Rhoads after leaving here, you know? But yeah, man, that was a heartbreaking moment. But, you know, I got to see the man at least once, and I still have my ticket stub. I've lost so many ticket stubs from back in the day, and I still have that one. I still have that ticket stub.
You said you have the tour program also, did you?
I sure do.
Oh,
I have
awesome.
the Blizzard of Oz tour book, and what's odd about this tour book, it has Bob Daisley, Lee Kerslake on it, which the tour the American tour, they already had Sarzo and Aldridge.
Yeah.
But this one is the European tour book, you know, which still, I guess they never reprinted new ones for America. And yeah, it has pictures of Lee Kerslake and a poster inside of that lineup. It's one of my treasured possessions, along with Soundhouse tapes. I own the Iron Maiden Soundhouse tapes, the original pressing,
nice.
which had Paul Di'Anno's song.
Oh, awesome.
Now, Creatures of the Night, you want to hear about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this one was it was heartbreaking, but it was amazing at the same time, because on my way to the show, on the radio they announced Ace Frehley won't be at the show. He had a car crash. Now, Kiss was pulling a fast number back then, because they were doing this, I understand, in every city. They wouldn't announce, you know, you'd see the flyers and every thing, it'd show Ace on it. But every day on the day of the show, they would get a radio announcer to say, Ace can't be here, they got a replacement. So
Yeah.
I was like, Ace is my favorite member, and I was so upset on the drive over there, because we heard it on the drive there. And I'm pissed, going, fuck, this sucks. No Ace, oh, this is terrible. And I went in.
Was this your first time? Sorry, Ralph. Was this your first time seeing Kiss?
Yes, it was.
Yes. Okay.
And also, I got to say that I gave up on Kiss in 1980. Unmasked, I didn't give a fuck about, or Elder, I didn't even look into it. I've heard bad things from everybody, so I never looked into it. And it wasn't until my buddy came to my house with Creatures of the Night on cassette, and I actually said, fuck Kiss, get that away from me. He's like, no, you got to hear this. I was like, all right, put it on. And when he put it on Creatures of the Night, I was like, fuck me. Holy shit, they're back. This is amazing. And back then, I thought that was Ace. I was like, fucking Ace has turned into a metal guitar player, you know? So I get to the show. Opening act was Plasmatics. Amazing.
Awesome.
Amazing show. Wendy, that changed my life too. I ran out and bought Coup d'Etat soon after that. One of my favorite albums to today. Then Kiss came out. And here's this fucking guy, Vinnie Vincent, shredding the fuck out of that guitar. Amazing. And I was like, okay, I'm not mad anymore, Ace ain't here. No, yeah, I wish it was Ace, but you know what? This guy's amazing. And Kiss was amazing. They put on a great show. Place was half empty, but they were phenomenal. And I finally got to see Detroit Rock City. And I remember they played "I Want You" that night, Love Gun, and a bunch of the classics, and they were just phenomenal. And I did get to see the Lick It Up tour year after, which was just as good. And they had the tank and stuff. They had the tank on both shows,
Oh, nice. From what I understand, the Creatures tour, it didn't roll around too long, did it? It didn't do that many dates in the States.
I think it did, but it was very poorly received.
Oh,
it was badly received. But I understand in some markets it did okay.
Yeah.
But in most markets it was terrible, and I was in one of those markets because I remember going to that show, and I was like a reborn Kiss fan, like everybody else, and wouldn't even give it a chance.
Yeah.
And I wasn't either. If it wasn't for my buddy forcing me to put it in my cassette player, I would be so mad today that I didn't go see the Creatures tour. Because, eventually I would have, notice Creatures of the Night saying, wait a second, this is a great album. Why didn't I go, But I thank that guy for forcing me to put on that cassette.
Absolutely, yep. So we mentioned there a while back, one of the many bands that you have, 4 or 5, whatever the number is. How long have you got Thrash Or Die on the go now? Is it, 10 years?
Yes, it's 10 years we officially formed. I've told this story a million times, but I'll say it again. I was already in my 40s. I think I was 42 at the time. And, I was 42. And a buddy of mine, that's a long, fucked up story. He was an enemy, and then we became friends. And he told me over the phone one day, I want to start a thrash band. And I was like, cool, more power to you. I didn't think nothing of it. So soon after, I went to this place called Metal Inc. that's not around anymore. There was actually a metal store 10 years ago up in Fort Lauderdale that I used to always go raid. Yeah. And they had the new Onslaught, and I love Onslaught. So they had the new Onslaught CD called Kill in Peace. And I bought it, and on my drive home, I'm listening to it, and there's this one song, the title track, where he says, the singer screams, spitting blood in the face of God. And I was like, wow, that's so cool. And I kept rewinding it. I kept putting it back, And then I started singing along to it. And when I screamed it, I thought, you know what, dude? I could probably do this. So I called him and I said, dude, Willie, man, you still want to do that thrash thing? I think I can sing, And then, I started writing lyrics that same night. I wrote Wake Up Smell Thrash that same night. And I wrote a song called Fucking Bitch that is recorded, but it's stuck in somebody's computer and we can't get it out for some reason.
Oh, man.
So that's, and that's a really good song. It's funny, but it's a good song. But I wrote those 2 songs, and my whole goal with Thrash Or Die is I wanted to release a split single, like release another band, do, side A and we're on side B or vice versa, and play a place called the Culture Room. That was it. That was my goal. That's all I wanted to do. But when we did the demo, everybody that we gave the demo to was loving it. We started to get booked everywhere. And I was like, whoa. And, because plus we were the only thrash band. And a lot of people talk about retro thrash and this and that. It's like, dude, Thrash Or Die was around before the retro thrash boom. We were there when Municipal Waste first started. I don't even think Toxic Holocaust was around yet. So we were there, and people label us as retro thrash, but how the fuck can I be retro thrash if I was like, at the first Motorhead show and thrashing around in South of Heaven and, before Kill 'Em All, and you've heard my history. I can't be retro, dude. Retro is young guys doing the old school shit. I'm an old guy doing the old school shit. So
you're doing what you know.
Exactly. So, and I never wanted to be in a band in my life, ever. It never was, as much, and it's a weird thing about me, as much as I was into music, I never fantasized being in a band, never fantasized being a rock star. I only fantasized of seeing the bands I wanted to see. That's all. I just lived through them. I didn't want to be this. And then now I'm doing it, and we're about to play to 10,000 people in Colombia, and that in a month from today, actually.
Oh,
the 20th awesome. A month from tomorrow. 20th of August, we are headlining a festival in Colombia that there's so far 10,000 people going to be there. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, how the fuck is Thrash Or Die playing at 10,000 people? Well, it's simple. In order to get to the show, all you got to do is bring a can of dog food because they have a bad homeless pet problem in Colombia. But the government is flying us over there. They're giving us a hotel, but we do have a following. And believe it or not, the promoter told me, he said to my that I have a huge following in Colombia, not so much because of Thrash Or Die, because of my YouTube reviews.
Yeah.
But everybody knows Thrash Or Die. And, if we were to go play Colombia, a paying gig, we could probably pack a club. But, if we're going to can of dog food, I can go see this guy that does reviews and his band Thrash Or Die. and literally, it's 10,000. But, also he books a lot of other international acts that are, not big like Thrash Or Die, but we are the biggest out of all of them.
Yeah.
That we're actually headlining this fest. And I can't wait to have that picture with me and the band with our arms holding each other with the 10,000 people behind us.
Oh,
we got to take pictures of that.
That's going to be awesome. Well,
it's like I want to break up the band after that. It's like, look, I achieved it. You know?
Well, congratulations, man. Wish you all the best. That's going to be a killer fucking show. You deserve it. So, I'm delighted. So, and also, you just touched on it there. You're a YouTube sensation. You've got about 50 channels, but in all seriousness, you're almost human. 56. Where a lot of people from there has discovered, the podcasts and other things that you're involved in. But how many views is it? Something like 5-6 million views.
Yeah, it's almost. I'll tell you right now, it's almost at 5 million. The last I checked just. Oops, hold on.
Man, because Ralph here makes killer fucking videos. We were just discussing off air a while back about some of the videos you made, and you do, man, a lot of work goes into them. You do a killer fucking show, and Ace Frehley has actually picked up your 2,000 man video twice and shared it on Twitter. So but I mean, like, 5 million is nothing to be fucking sniffed at. That's fucking awesome.
Almost given 56. The number count at the moment is 4,917,002. So
I think
close, and actually it hit 4 million about 6 months ago, so it's almost 1 million hits in half a year.
Yeah, I think when I first found Almost Human 56, I think you were at about 1.5 million. I think maybe pushing for the 2. And that's only a couple of years. So, I mean, the numbers are just through the fucking roof.
Yeah, and believe me, I mean, there's a lot of people that follow me, and 9 out of 10 people that discover the podcast, because every time we have a guest on the podcast, Ian always asks, how do you discover us? And 9 out of 10 say Almost Human.
Yeah.
But then there's also the Eternal Idols, which was the very first YouTube review page I did, where it's not nearly as much, but that is my favorite band, where I review all the Black Sabbath albums. And then believe me, when I started the Kiss one, I didn't think it was going to blow up. I thought it was going to do less than Black Sabbath, but I loved Kiss, so I was like, let me do a Kiss channel with nothing but Kiss reviews. And that's the one that, if I'm going to promote anything, I go there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's great. I put up a video and it'll get like 100 views in less than an hour.
Yeah, that's fucking unreal. The rest
and
of us
I could put up a video at 4 in the morning.
Yeah,
and it'll get 100 views by 5 in the morning.
That's
because I get international people checking out. It's great. It's an amazing feeling. I don't take none of this for granted. Every video I make, I thank everybody, because I really am humbled by it. If you listen to podcasts, I act like this big rock star with a big head, but it's all a goof.
Yeah.
I really am a modest person, and I really do not take for granted everything that I have. I mean, look, also Thrash or Die. I mean, Thrash or Die, not only because it's Almost Human, but Thrash or Die is also, let me go look at that. I believe it's at 136,000 people on the Facebook page. Let me check. And I mean, that's mind blowing. I mean, we played Europe, we've done tours. We're in a movie, a Trauma movie, Return of Nukem High. We're in that. There's various people with Thrash or Die tattoos. I've seen Thrash. I bought a fucking Thrash or Die patch on eBay.
A bootleg,
a bootleg patch. Yeah, I bought it. I was like, and then I even told the guy, I go, hey, I'm the singer of Thrash or Die, and his reply, cool.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome.
I'll sue you. No, but I'm not that way. It's like, dude, if you want to bootleg and I'll tell everybody out there, go ahead, download our shit for free. The only thing I ask is share it, you know, but I don't give a fuck if people steal my music. I really don't care.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Fucking matter.
Yeah, and you touched on the podcast there, and I don't think there's a fucking week where Mike and myself don't mention your podcast on here. But Rocket Metal Combat Podcast, yourself and Ian Wadley, that is what, 3 years, 4 years?
I really don't know. I don't know. Maybe 3 years seems to be about right. And that is another thing that has exploded. I mean, we have a rabid following, and I don't know if you know this or not, but they're doing a documentary on our podcast. There's a guy. Yeah, there's a guy that's going to film us, and it's going to be what it is. It's a documentary about Rock and Metal Combat Podcast, but it's also going to feature other podcasts because the guy's going to go to the Rock and Pod Expo.
Yeah.
But we are the main focus.
Oh, that's
But
nice.
it's going to talk about podcasts, but it's going to be mostly be interviews with me and Ian. I mean, this is what I understand. Ian's the one telling me all this information because it turns out there's a fan of the show that has a relative or a brother or somebody that films documentaries, and he told that guy about us, and he's saying, "Hey, you should do a documentary on these guys." And he looked into it and he goes, "Yeah, this was a great idea." So we're going to have there's going to be a documentary on the Rock and Metal Combat Podcast. Now, I don't know how big this guy is, and I don't know if it's ever going to be seen on Netflix or whatever, but nonetheless, there's, and there's people that fucking are rabid for this podcast. I mean, every fucking week we put one up, and it's just, and we've spawned so many podcasts, and it's just an amazing feeling. And the funny thing about the podcast is, I didn't know Ian from a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
And I was very inspired by Bob Nalbamian, who doesn't have a podcast anymore. I think it was called Skull Sessions, and also Ken Mills from Podcast. I would listen to those two things religiously, thinking to myself, I want to start a podcast, but I don't know how to go by it. And I said it on it was Almost Human page. I wrote, dude, I want to start a podcast. Anybody want to start a podcast with me? And then Ian was the first one to reply saying, yeah, dude, I do. And I go, well, dude, see what you could do, hook it up, and let's start a podcast. I didn't know Ian. I had no idea how this guy was going to be like, and I didn't even care. Now, it's just as long as I can get a podcast. And then I started doing a podcast with this guy, and this guy's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, the
hilarious.
chemistry that you have
is
so natural.
God, it was like meant to be.
Yeah.
It was like there is a God. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better co-host because, me and him have such different opinions. I mean, me and him are like night and day in a lot of things, but yet his whole attitude and comedy and delivery and the way he is, he's way better than me. I mean, 100 times better than me on the podcast, and now a lot of people love Wadzilla, and it's like, and rightfully so. The guy is a major talent, and I think he is the main reason why that podcast is so successful. Ian is a god to me,
Yeah.
He's an idiot too.
Oh, absolutely. Look,
fucking idiot.
He's a great guy, but what drew
great
me,
guy, but a fucking idiot. No, I love him.
What drew me to the podcast was that you two guys are so similar in a sense, but you're opposites. If that makes any sense as well.
No, it is a weird chemistry.
Yeah.
We do have this kinship, but at the same time, we are so opposites in so many things.
Absolutely.
It's like I wouldn't want to wish death on people.
Yeah, and the mom jokes are funny as fuck too.
yeah, and let me tell you something. All of it's ad lib. I mean, Ian takes notes as far as like reviewing an album and stuff, but when we talk, we have nothing scripted. We just go on and just talk, and we're both boneheads. There's no filter. There's no censors, and we're the type of podcast that there's a lot of podcasts out there, and I know you'll agree with me that play it safe because they want to get that guest.
Of course,
we can't talk bad about Paul Stanley because then he won't do our show. I'm like, fuck Paul Stanley, fuck everybody.
Yeah,
let's bash everybody. That's I think why our podcast is so successful is because we don't hold anything back. We tell it as it is. We don't give a fuck if we offend. I mean, we don't go out to purposely offend. We just speak our mind. It just so happens it offends a bunch of people when we're honest. Yep,
that's it. And if, you speak your minds, and if people don't like it, then don't fucking listen.
I'm telling you, yeah, exactly. I mean, our show is so offensive that sometimes I even get offended, by what Ian says, and vice versa. We offend each other,
Yeah, but it's great. And also as well too, let's not forget the radio show, because I mean, you were on that metal station first, but you're actually responsible for Mike, my co-host here. You're responsible for Ian. You're responsible for Nate. You're responsible for me. So, I mean, you opened that doorway for a lot of DJs
it was really Ian and me, because Scott Green discovered the Rock and Metal Combat Podcast. Then he started plucking everybody from the thing. But Mike's been doing the show longer than me. Mike was on the Metal Station before any of us.
Oh, was he? I thought, yeah.
Yeah, he started it, and then I didn't want to do it because Scott kept asking me and Ian over and over, and I just didn't want to do it. And then, then I finally buckled. I said, all right, I'll do a Thursday show. It's my day off, and but I'm a very busy guy, but I always look. I've turned down dates with chicks. I've turned down band practice. But one thing I can't turn down is metal shows. You know? So I do take Thursdays off when concerts come.
Yep.
When it comes to metal, I'm sorry I have to abandon my show for that. Mm-hmm. But I've abandoned chicks and band practice for the radio show. I do a lot of sacrifices for the radio show. But I haven't been on. I'm not going to be on for 2 weeks now. I will be back on the 27th. Thursday night, 8 p.m. on that Metal Station, the Dr. Fukk show.
And we always do give you a plug here every week. We always play your bumper at the end of every episode.
Thank you. I appreciate it. If you can send me that bumper. I don't even have a bumper to my show. I don't play a bumper of my show during my show, but I'd like to add it to my podcast. Yeah,
cool. Yeah, well, actually, I think all the bumpers are getting redone because so many people have changed fucking times. I'm one of them. I've changed from Wednesday to Friday. Just because it suited me better.
Right.
So, but I won't be on air. I won't be on air this week. So, something's.
So when is this airing? This podcast?
Well, this podcast will be airing Friday.
Okay.
So, cool. And then Ralph, we can't forget about Viera Vault.
Yes, my brand new podcast. I just put up episode 1. By the time you air this, episode 2 will be up. And it's a solo venture that I wanted to do. It's different than the podcast. I want to do something different. I've been wanting to do it because the story behind that is that me and Ian almost, we had a bad falling out. And I was like, fuck you, I'm going to start my own podcast. And but then we mended fences and I didn't. So I actually, Metal Mike, your co-host, was very instrumental in keeping the Rock and Metal Combat podcast alive because he was kind of like our in-between because we had a show with him. Mm-hmm. We reviewed, I believe it was the Black Album, and me and Ian, I was like ready to leave the show and we weren't getting along, and I just did it because I'm the type of person that I'm not going to abandon somebody. If we got to do something, let's do it, but I'll give you a notice. Mm-hmm. And he already knew I was leaving. I was like, enough of this. And then during that time I had all these thoughts of how I wanted to do my podcast. And this was like well over a year ago.
Yeah.
And, but then, I went back, but it was always been in the back of my mind. Like, I want to still do a podcast. I still want to do it. And originally I wanted to do an interview show, but I really don't have the time, because it really takes a lot of time and effort to talk to managers and, people online and try to get people on the show. And I tried this already and I failed on every account, and it was a lot of time that I wasted. I could have done other stuff that I'm here trying to do this. So I said, fuck that. So then I thought of another way to do my show, and I still don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So far I got, the first show is me explaining what I wanted to do so far at the moment. The second show, which airs tomorrow, which is on as you're hearing this, I reviewed the Paul Stanley audiobook, which is really, it's one of those podcast that you got to listen to the whole thing because it starts off where it's entertaining. I believe the whole time, but it gets extremely entertaining at the end.
Yeah, I'm looking forward
as the show goes on. Yeah, as the show goes on, it took me some time to do it. I took my time, but I actually did this podcast. I recorded this before the podcast was even up. I had this idea like a few months ago. Did it, recorded, and said, okay, I'll add this whenever I get the podcast running. And I will have guests. I'm going to have an interview with Bobby Gustafson from ex-Overkill guitar player. I'm friends with him. And he just played on our cover of Hammerhead from Thrash Or Die. Really good guy. And I don't want to jinx other ones, but believe me, some real, big names in the underground that about, I am going to get on my show. It's just, I got to find the time to do it. And I already had a couple people agree to do it that everybody out there knows. If you know your metal, you know these people. And I'm going to have them on my show. I'm friendly with them. and it will happen eventually. So it's not only going to be an interview show, but I'm going to have like, I don't know. I and I don't think, I was even thinking today I should do a show about Jaws, a movie, because I love Jaws so much, and there's so much stuff about Jaws that a lot of people don't like and don't know, but I'm such a major Jaws nerd that there's things that would blow people's mind that, if you like Jaws, chances are you may not know a few things that I know, because I've lived with it for over 4 years. And just different things, I don't know what else, and I would want you on the show. I want friends on my show. I want people, anybody out there listening that, disagrees with me and wants to prove me wrong. I'm not saying you're not, you may. I would love to have shows like that too. People to argue with.
Yeah.
Not argue in a malicious way, but argue with facts. Because there's a lot of people out there, Ozzy Osbourne never wrote a lyric in his life. I want to talk to you. Yeah. Definitely. Metallica charges $1,200 to meet and greet. Oh, please come on my show.
Yeah.
People that have these idiotic fantasies of, oh, this is that way, that and this way. I want to argue about Sharon Osbourne. I don't like the woman, but there's good things I can say about her that'll piss people off, and so on. Even the Paul Stanley episode that's airing, check it out. I'm a big fan of Ace Frehley. I hate the scabs. I can't stand these two people in those makeups. But if you listen to my podcast, I defend just about every member of KISS, including the scabs and Paul Stanley, but I also bash them all at the same time. So, but everything I say, if you disagree, please come on my show and let's talk about it.
Absolutely. And it's Viera Vault, and it's on Spreaker, iTunes, and Podbean. Is that... Yeah, at the moment, that's it.
And YouTube. You're going to help me hook that up. And I also want to thank you, James. James is the one responsible for getting me on Spreaker and talking, getting on my computer and helping me out to get all the shit rolling. So I want to thank you a lot, because I don't think I could have done it myself.
No, thank you. Look, anytime, I'm happy to help. I'm delighted. Any way I can help you out, man, just, give me a buzz. Just delighted to see the Viera Vault, out there. It was pretty fucking cool. I really loved the first episode, and
you liked it? Thank you, man. Thank you. And it's pretty much, that episode is pretty much a tutorial. Of what it's going to be. It's not really.
It was a trial run.
It's not going to be your typical show. Yeah, it was like, let me just put an episode up now, episode 1, because I didn't want to start with the Paul Stanley one. I wanted let me just make an episode where it's only an hour long, and it is good. I mean, I remember I put up a clip of me arguing with somebody that hated my band. Yeah. And it's very entertaining.
Yeah, it's funny, man. It's funny fucking shit. But can't wait for episode 2 tomorrow. But look, Ralph, I just want to thank you for coming on. And Metal Mike, it's a shame he got some sort of fucking problem with his power.
Yeah. And I love Metal Mike, by the way. He's a great guy.
He's a great guy. So, and I know he's going to be...
Thank you for having me, man.
No problem. Just before we go, I'm just going to remind people, Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, Dr. Fukk Show, thatmetalstation.com. Check out the Rock and Metal Combat podcast, iTunes, Podbean, Thrash Or Die. Check them out on Facebook. And also, I seen your thrashordie.band.com. You have a pretty cool website.
Yes. We got a website. That's a fan out there made it.
Oh, awesome.
Very nice guy. I don't know nothing about the internet. Yeah, he made it for me. It's been up for about a year. It's not been up that long.
That's killer. And also don't forget your YouTube pages and just everything else. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Fukk. But before I go, just want to remind you, all you fucking dumb fucks that still haven't sent in the reviews for the competition, you've got a week left. But, look, that has been episode 11, and sorry for the 2-week gap, but, we're busy. Keep checking us out, mindovermetalpodcast.com, Spreaker, iTunes, Podbean. Ralph, before we go, do you want to play out with a track, Thrash Or Die song?
A Thrash Or Die song? Play from our last album, Melt in Your Skull, Postmortem Star. I love that one.
Postmortem Star? Awesome.
Very proud of that one.
Awesome. Well, here we go, as chosen by Ralph Viera, Dr. Fukk. This is Thrash Or Die, Postmortem Star.
Why, Winslow, good to see you. Been looking for you everywhere. Killing me won't help you. God, you're horrible. You've destroyed your face, your voice. Now you're trying to destroy the paradise. Haven't we all had enough? I can give you the power to create again. I can make you somebody. Tomorrow I'll put a whole new group together who'll do your songs your way. You don't have to believe me. Come to the auditions and see for yourself. Trust me. Trust me.
What's up, everybody? This is DJ Mac, and I just want to tell you guys that my show is now moved to Fridays, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on that metal station. Kick off your fucking weekend with the best in hard rock and heavy metal. Same show, different fucking day. That's Max Mind Over Metal. Fridays, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here, thatmetalstation.com.
Hey everybody, this is DJ Metal Mike, and you need to check out the Metal Mike Show every fucking Friday night, from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Check out the Crusader of Metal Show, DJ King. Bringing metal to the masses every Sunday night from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on thatmetalstation.com.
I'm Dr. Fukk.
And I'm the Ayatollah of Alcohola.
And we are from the Rock and Metal Combat Podcast.
If you want to check out some crazy, uncensored, unbiased, totally nuts reviews of classic hard rock and heavy metal albums, check us out. You can get us on Podbean and iTunes. New episodes every Sunday.
That's right. And we also do each other's moms.
True. Free of charge.
Well, mine charges.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, mine's free.
Hey, Dr. Fukk here, and I'm telling you about my radio show, The Dr. Fukk Show, right here on thatmetalstation.com. Join us 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays, where I go on live and I talk to everybody that's on the Facebook page and in the chat room at www.thatmetalstation.com. Sometimes I'll play for 2 hours, sometimes I'll even go up to 8, and I will blast the metal, just so I can save my voice. But it's pretty much a metal-type talk show, and you are the guest. So join me on thatmetalstation.com chat room Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, and ask whatever you want. Ask me to play whatever you want, but it better be good, because if it sucks, I ain't playing it. Right here on That Metal Station, the Dr. Fukk Show.